Breaking news today.
Please subscribe and then check notification box to get all breaking news alerts.
A job on Capitol Hill affords a lot of people a lot of incredible advantages. Not only are they paid pretty well to do the job of lawmaker, but they gain all kinds of political clout because of the office that they hold. While we'd like to think that every person we send to represent us in Washington, D.C. is there for the sole purpose of making America a better place, history has proven time and again that with many politicians, they're more likely to be looking out for their own interest than ours. Such is the case with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. This former chair of the Democratic National Committee has been embroiled in legal troubles ever since it was discovered that she continued to employ Imran Awan, an IT staffer who was under a federal investigation for an alleged equipment and data scam. This was obviously problematic for many who consider the information on the congressional hard drives to be something of value. As it turns out, Schultz isn't the only one in the family to be caught with their hand in the cookie jar. Wasserman Schultz's husband, Steve Schultz, is now also in deep legal troubles over his desire to acquire the property that a certain elderly man wasn't ready to let go of. Daily Mail reported the details of Schultz's misadventures, and he reads like a novel, the villain in almost pushing an older person down on their luck to give him, the money-hungry banker, what he wants to increase his own bottom line. The husband of former Democratic National Committee Chair Debbie Wasserman Schultz is being accused of trying to rip off an elderly commercial property owner and threatening him in the process, according to a lawsuit recently filed in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Banker Steve Schultz, husband of the scandal-prone U.S. Congresswoman for 26 years, allegedly tried to have 70-year-old investor Frank DeMaria hand over the deed of his troubled $4 million commercial property in Pompano Beach, Florida, to Schultz personally, according to the complaint obtained exclusively by DailyMail.com. Because DeMaria was having troubles paying on credit lines and mortgages, Schultz's now defunct Community Bank of Broward would eventually launch the foreclosure of DeMaria's property on the heavily traveled Atlantic Boulevard beachfront area. DeMaria says Schultz tried to intimidate him into surrendering his property to him without the proper foreclosure proceedings in a court of law. Even a hint of impropriety of this sort could mean the end of a political career for anyone associated with it, especially if the lawmaker in question know what was going on. However, many of our representatives have gotten such an inflated God complex that they seem to not understand that no means no. Sometimes that even transfers to those around them, as it did in this case. The narrative goes on. Mr. Schultz called Mr. DeMaria and proposed that he sign the Pompano Beach property over to Mr. Schultz personally, the lawsuit reads. Mr. DeMaria replied by stating, "Are you out of your mind?" Mr. Schultz replied by stating no and further stating something to the effect of no matter how big a lawyer you get or how many, I will destroy you and them and you know I have the power to do it. In an exclusive interview, Schultz told DailyMail.com that DeMaria knows he is married to Wasserman Schultz and is using that fact for effect. Mr. DeMaria knows I'm married to Debbie so he might believe in some big conspiracy theory involving me and Debbie, Schultz said. But that's not the case. I couldn't personally seize his property even if I wanted to. He is a crazy old guy who cost the bank a lot of money. Eventually, we had to sell his mortgage to another party at a $200,000 loss. Schultz blamed DeMaria's heavy Italian accent and lack of proficiency in English for the misunderstanding. But I never asked that he deed the property to me. Besides, I'm not interested in commercial properties. DeMaria's lawyer said the case was in its infancy and declined comment. He confirmed he had Schultz served with the complaint at the house Schultz shares with a congresswoman and their 3 children. Let's see, how many 70-year-old businessmen do you know who live in Florida have such trouble with English that they're barely able to communicate with those around them? Not many? It seems suspicious that DeMaria could have such an incredible piece of property, wanted by so many if he were incapable of communicating with those around them. What does seem entirely probable is that their husband of an already proved crooked congresswoman might try to use that power to strong-arm someone they thought they could manipulate into giving them what they wanted. The Schultz already live in a $700,000 home in the far Fort Lauderdale suburban sprawl of Weston, and while there's nothing wrong with that, it's clear that they're no strangers to getting what they want. Sadly, this is what we have come to in the United States, people so drunk on power that they would pervert their mission and take what they want for themselves, leaving innocent civilians to fend for themselves. Thankfully, this citizen is standing up for himself and willing to become a target to make the money-hungry pay for their sins.